All right, and we're on. We're live.
Okay.
Hey, how are you
Okay.
today? How's your morning?
It's been all right. I did just wake up like I think a few minutes ago.
I was like, are you gonna answer me? Today is the day. Kind of excited. No. Okay, well, that's good. That's good. All right. Well, should we just dive right in, or is there anything you want to add before we start?
Uh, is it? Wait. Frick. I want to say I'm trying to put I'm trying to put something into like a proper sentence, but I keep stuttering. So forgive me if I stutter.
Hey, no, that's fine. It's fine.
Is it all right if I say some stuff to like defend myself or
Well,
just
yeah,
to?
obviously, this is I'm the one asking you questions. that, that's
Okay.
that's the that's the whole point.
Okay.
Okay. Well, obviously, yeah. Okay. Anyway. Well, should we get started then?
Yes.
Okay. So the first question I have, well, I think I remember writing down is, when did you first meet your, let's say, I don't want to use the word, I don't want to use the word abuser because that sounds kind of bad, but we'll use that for a reference for now.
All right.
When did you first meet your abuser, and how did you meet
Uh,
them?
um, the let's see. The first abuser that I met was through a friend who we will call Erratic for now.
Mm-hmm.
Erratic, um, Erratic was the first person that I spoke to before she introduced me to my said abuser. And then, and then after a while of me talking to Erratic, then that's when she like tossed me into a group chat with the person who was soon to be my said abuser along the path.
Okay. So so erratic. All right. So how would you say how would you say you first two got along? Like, did you guys go along good? Did you guys start on a negative thing? How did that go?
Wait, who?
Like, let's say you're the person you met for erratic.
Uh-huh.
Let's say how'd you guys like in the group chat and stuff? Like, what was your first impression?
Um, Me knowing myself at the time, I was mostly like a shy type of person, if you catch my drift. Um, but for my abuser, I I I don't know. I don't remember how they acted, but they seemed fine at first. But things, I guess, got a little out of hand as time went on.
What do you mean by that specifically?
She, I could tell that she was acting mean to like erratic from what I remember, and I remember also in a call that she would talk bad about erratic and then later blame it on me despite I didn't do like anything wrong.
What are those things that she's accusing you of? Or they are accusing you of? My bad. Oops.
um my abuser would accuse me of supposedly forcing her to side against erratic, um blaming me of she oh, they would blame me for the fallout between them and erratic, aka the broken friendship, and they also accused me of being the one who talked bad, even though I never spoke ill about erratic in any way.
Okay. So before all of that, before let's say you started, let's say getting accused of things that you didn't do
Uh-huh.
or claim to not do anyway. What's were you ever in love with your abuser before obviously the accusations and stuff started happening?
No, I never had like a type of crush on my abuser.
You never
I
engaged with them. It just happened, or
they um yeah, things sort of happened, but that's only because they supposedly didn't want my love life to like go to waste or go to trash or something like that.
so my question is, if you weren't ever in love with them, why'd you engage with them?
I have no clue on why I decided to engage with them, but I did know that somewhere along the line, me and my said abuser would break things off eventually. Like I technically like saw it coming.
From what I understand, you had multiple abusers, correct?
Yes.
How'd you meet your second abuser?
Now this second abuser came to me. Well, I remember the second abuser making it their um first move. Like they were the first like oh my god. Like the second abuser was the first to talk to me. And then after a while, me and the second abuser didn't talk much. And then after a while, I think it was after the day of Easter. That's when me and the second abuser started to talk, but then that's when things like started to get like out of hand, like quickly.
What do you mean by specifically get out of hand?
The second abuser would force me to do things that I didn't want to do, like forcing me to remove my clothes despite I was 9 years old at this time, and he would all oh they would also force me
You
to
can
do
use
stuff.
genders, but I'm sorry to interrupt. You can use genders, by the way, without just saying their name. That's fine.
Okay.
My bad on that.
And he would also force me to do stuff to myself that I didn't understand, considering I was so young and had like um and I didn't understand these inappropriate stuff considering how young I was, and a young child, especially a young child like me, shouldn't be knowing any of this inappropriate stuff. But for some reason, he attempted to try to teach me, but I never understood them.
Oh yeah, and definitely. You were very young. Yeah, that was not an acceptable answer. Like I'm
Yeah.
not saying like you're not an acceptable answer. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying like okay, not an acceptable answer, but that's not an acceptable action.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very wrong. I agree with you there. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, if you okay, before like negative stuff went on, let's say before
Mhm.
the action, if you will.
Mhm.
Um, did you have any positive moments with either abuser?
Um, there were some positive moments, like with the first abuser. The first abuser would would um would always find a way to like I think to be funny from what I remember because they always like I don't know, I would like always laugh at what they would do or something like that.
Okay. What about your second abuser?
Second abuser, on the other hand, he he would try to act funny by doing like voice impressions of characters from like let's say Mickey Mouse, for example. He would do a Mickey Mouse voice impression and try to be all funny, and that would always make me laugh. And that's only, I guess, something positive that I remember from the two abusers.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, obviously there must be some good in there, obviously for them for you to
Yeah.
trust them, right?
Yeah.
Like before the incident and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I don't like to go on emotional roller coasters like this, but what would you say? Okay, let's start with only the first one, and
Yeah.
eventually we'll move on to the second one. Okay?
Okay. Okay.
What would you say was the turning point where you stopped trusting and talking or communicating with the first one in a positive regard?
The main thing that started to turn me away from the first abuser was how they were acting towards me, and how the friendship just seemed a very like abusive and toxic, and since I didn't want to be in that sort of re- friendship or relationship with anyone, I wanted to leave, mainly for my own safety.
Okay, so basically you're just saying like they just stopped talking to you? What went on? Did they try to convince you that it was good what you were doing? I didn't get the understanding there.
Wait, good in doing what exactly?
Like what convinced you before like you stopped talking to them to keep talking to them after the incident? Like did you stop talking to them right away or were you staying around?
Um,
Basically, were you repeating your actions before you decide to finally cut the line with them?
um, since after the incident, I stuck around for like I don't know how long I stuck around because I remember me and first abuser would always like get into fights and all of that, and then they would always like blame like the fights or said or quote quote drama on me, despite again I was young, and I it's something like that should never have happened, but it still happened and it's still a part of my life.
What would you say was the scariest part in your relationship with your first abuser?
The scariest thing I would most likely have to say is, I guess, how they would like make up stuff like for example, they would um try and scare me by saying something along the lines of, "There's a killer outside your window. They're gonna come for you." And since they knew I was young and gullible and I would believe them, of course I would freak out, which they shouldn't be doing. The first abuser obviously shouldn't be doing that, especially to a kid that's young, because that could like traumatize them or something like that. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, yeah, understandable. They were using fear basically to convince you that you had no other option, pretty
Yeah.
much. Okay. So, with your first particular abuser,
Mhm.
essentially, they'd use scare tactics, right? Pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
So, the question is specifically, I suppose, the
Mhm.
amazing question is, do you feel like, okay, obviously, there is obviously like the turning point, but
Mhm.
was there a noticeable decline? Like when your abuser started, let's say like, okay, hold on, let me rephrase that.
Yeah.
Was there a noticeable start when your abuser started like, abusing like you, convincing you and stuff like that, like manipulating and stuff? Was there a noticeable point or no?
Um, I don't know if there was any other noticeable point, because all I remember is that they would use scare tactics and just act very strange around me, but I don't remember if there was um a a sort of shoot. I am sorry if I like pause in the middle of a sentence. I'm trying to put everything into words and try to remember everything that happened.
Oh yeah, that's understandable. I struggle to come up with the questions because I don't have my Google Doc open, which I wrote most of the questions in.
Uh-huh.
So, go ahead, keep going.
All right. Um, but if there was like any noticeable starts between me and the first abuser, that I probably didn't like notice them like right away, considering how things were.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, again with the first abuser. Um, okay, I know this is probably something you can't answer, but do you think you could at least guess? This is why do you think your abuser targeted you specifically? It's okay if you can't answer this one.
Uh, I'm gonna try my best to answer. I think I feel like the reason why they targeted me specifically is because I feel like they know that I'm like easy to manipulate, that I obviously can't fight back. I and they know that I do tend to struggle to defend myself, and considering that I'm gullible, and they knew that I would constantly give people chances, but what they don't realize is that there's breaking points with people, and they can easily like cut the line if things go too far.
Okay, yeah. So you were basically naive and such. Yeah, you were young. I mean, there's not really
Yeah,
an excuse there. This person was much older than you. They knew what they were doing, and that's
exactly.
very inappropriate. Okay.
Yeah.
So, let's start talking about your second abuser for a bit.
All right.
We'll come back to your first abuser, by the way, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I don't mind.
So your second abuser. Um. So what made Let's start with that. So you met them, and did you have a noticeable turning point with them also? Your second abuser.
From what from the noticeable start from my second abuser, I not I've noticed that they would constantly just use me for their own like I can't really say this word out loud, so I'm just gonna use another word to replace it. They would always The second abuser would always use me for their dirty pleasure, and would always like emotionally manipulate me with the sob story being all like, if you don't do what I'm telling you to do, I will die and you'll go to jail, and all of that. Like, he would always manipulate me into doing stuff that I didn't want to do, and that I didn't understand, because again, this person was older than me, probably somewhere around the age of a teenager, while I was still a young child.
Okay. So at any point in time with either abuser, sorry, we'll come back to your second abuser in a second.
Mhm.
I'm just curious to ask you this. At any point in time, was anybody else aware of what was going on except for you?
No, no one knew about what was going on, since abusers are like to keep things behind closed doors, and not like they don't like to do it in front of other people. You know what I mean?
Sort of. I can't really
Yeah.
say from personal experience because I never was personally in your shoes. I never was necessarily okay, I'm gonna say this because it's my YouTube channel. I don't really care. I never personally was sexually abused,
Hmm.
so I can't really define that answer. But
Yeah.
speaking from personal experience from stories that I've heard, yeah,
Hmm.
I personally agree with you there. I think a majority of abusers like to keep their business behind doors. Okay, let's
Yeah.
continue with your second one.
Right.
Is there any particular moment with your abuser that will always, like, I know obviously you said the impressions earlier, but is
Hmm.
there any moment in the relationship with them, like it could be a friendship or you were dating them, it doesn't matter,
Uh-huh.
were you like forgiving of them? This also goes to your first abuser, by the way. Were you forgiving of their actions, or were you always resentful towards them?
I can honestly never forgive them for what they did because honestly what they did was wrong, and since they were older and doing this to a child, I'm pretty sure they that that if anyone ever saw them doing this, someone can easily like call them out on this, and then it's or most likely see them as like a child predator because what they were doing is something that I'm pretty sure like a child predator would do.
Okay. So if I'm not mistaken here, your first predator at the time is a she, and your second
Yes.
predator was a he, right?
Yes.
This is off topic personally, but back then, did you have a preference on which like gender your partner was or no?
Like which partner?
No, like this like were you heterosexual, bisexual, or were you homosexual?
Um, when
This
I
this is like I said, this is off topic, so
well, at the time, I wasn't really open with my sexuality, but most of the time I came off straight, but I was but at the time I was a little bisexual, but for right now I would like to remain being a straight person.
okay. Okay, let's get back to the main subject. I don't want to digress here. Okay, so this comes back to an interesting question, I guess, or
hmm
concept. Um, what was your outer life like at the time? Like when you weren't associating with your abusers?
like on the internet or
No,
in real
I
life.
mean like what was going on in your life at the time? Were you just living a normal life? Were you in a particularly bad situation? You don't have to go into specific details. Just I'm just curious what was going on outside of the interactions with the abusers.
Uh, well, to be fair, my life, especially outside of outside of communications with like everyone here, like on the internet, or I don't know, just to give more insight of what happened, especially with my past. Not only was I not only was I sexually abused like on the internet, but I was also sexually abused in real life, one by a teenager, which was a family friend, and one by an older cousin who I believe who was also um a teenager, but this older cousin was very sex driven, if you know what I mean.
So you weren't just getting abused online, you were also getting abused in real life, correct?
Yes, but at the time I was like very young, somewhere around the ages 5 or 6.
Would you say you would be where you are today if incidents like this didn't happen?
I feel like uh, I don't.
Okay, hold on. No,
Well,
let me rephrase that because those
it,
are okay. Would you say that? Okay, hold on. Actually, let me just ignore. I guess ignore that question.
it,
Let's say let's say, all right. Everything happened in case. What happened after the second abuser? Like what were you particularly doing?
uh, I don't remember what I was doing after the second abuser, but I remember most of the time I would either be crying or just be sad after the incidents that have happened between both like abusers.
Do you think that other abuse victims in their lives, besides yourself,
Uh-huh.
like speaking from your perspective, do you think other abuse victims like become more distant from other people because of that?
Yeah, I do find myself, well, I do find I want to I want to save my answer, but I don't know if it'll be like correct.
Well, it's understandable. It's your perspective. I understand. Not every perspective is the same for everyone else. It's okay.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think? Do you notice yourself more distant?
Yeah. And I do find myself pushing others away because I don't want because I find it really difficult to talk to other people, especially about my feelings, because I don't know if they'll understand or they'll or if they'll believe me and all of that. So that's why I always find myself to be so distant and push others away.
Okay. So so a common theme here, noticing with predators in 2020, or at least
Uh-huh.
known predators, a
Yeah.
common theme a lot of people are blaming it on is mental illness. Do you
Yeah.
think do you think your your abusers at the time, not now, because obviously right now they're not, but at the time
Yeah.
before their actions, they were mentally unstable?
Um, I'm not so sure because I do like I've stated before, the second abuser would always emotional manipulate me emotionally by saying that if I didn't do if I didn't like remove all of my clothes and do what he wanted, he would supposedly die because of a quote unquote mental illness.
Okay. Well,
For the
yeah, yeah. Keep going.
for the first abuser, I don't really know. I don't think she ever blamed it on anything, but she but from what I remember, she blamed something on the second abuser.
Let's go back to your first person that you're speaking about, Erratic.
Yes.
How did you meet Erratic?
Um for Erratic, I'm not so sure. I remember Erratic like being the first to meet me.
If I'm not mistaken, you've met Erratic for a friend in the past, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So Erratic introduced you to your first abuser, correct?
Yes.
Would you personally say it's Erratic's fault or no?
No, I wouldn't. In despite everything, I would never blame Erratic because like I know that she most likely would never have seen this coming or something like that.
Okay, because I personally know Erratic also in this situation, and so do you think Erratic had an idea of what was going on when you were with your first abuser?
I don't know. I mean me and Erratic like never spoke a lot, but from what I remember, she would I think sorry if I keep stuttering a lot. I'm trying to remember everything. But I do remember Erratic most of the time um not really talking to the first abuser as much. Like like you get like you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, um, sort of.
Yeah.
So are you just saying they just didn't socialize to the point
Yeah.
where you don't? So you're saying you don't think she would have known?
Yeah, I don't think Erratic would have known.
Okay. This goes to the second question also. What do you think Erratic has ever contacted your second abuser?
Um, the only time I remember Erratic contacting my second abuser was when the first abuser decided to turn everyone against me and accuse me of being the one that was abusive, despite I was never abusive to anyone.
Okay. So what would you say to people? Okay, never mind. Actually, no, not that.
Yeah.
So if I'm not mistaken, you had a YouTube channel, correct?
Yes.
And you came out about these abusers, and they were toxic friends, right?
Yes. Yes.
My question about that is, I know you used to have you run YouTube channel before that, so
Uh-huh.
just curious, since most of your videos I believe are unlisted or deleted, are you ever planning on like releasing those videos, or are you gonna keep them permanently archived under unlisted?
Um, I don't know what I plan on doing with the future of my channel, but right now, the videos that I have um privated, most of them are unlisted, but for right now, all the majority of them are privated, except for those um four remaining videos. I those will stay up, but for right now, the other videos will, for the majority, will stay hidden until then.
Is there a particular reason your videos are privated?
Um, it's mostly personal reasons because since so it's sorry if I keep stuttering a lot. Um, I think one reason that I can say for the cause of me privating like the other videos, like for example, the videos with my art in them, I privated them so no one like tries to either um so no one like tries to accuse me of quote unquote stealing ideas or so no one like or no one like tries to this is really hard to explain.
My question is, why would people steal your art?
um I don't know. I've dealt with someone like tracing my art before, but it was on like Hangouts and but it was like with a different type of person. I think after I like stopped talking to my two abusers, but that I guess is besides the point.
Okay. Okay, let's continue back to your abusers. So, if I'm not mistaken, with your first abuser, correct?
Mhm.
They they recently got into contact with you, a few months back, right?
Yes.
Is there anything particularly you want to talk about that, or
She she seemed um I guess she was acting nice, but I could tell that but I could like notice something about her that just seemed very off.
what would you say was off about her?
I remember introducing one of my friends who is my crush. I've told you about my crush. She would act rude towards him from what I remember.
Okay. Um, like what was she particularly doing?
So, for example, my crush was explaining a story about like a classmate who was acting um gay around him despite my crush isn't gay, but little oh my god, I just said her name. Um my abuser uh my
Well,
abuser what
she has a new alias now, right? Like
yeah,
she has a new name, right?
yeah.
I think we're fine keeping that in. I don't think she um hopefully people don't find that. Okay,
Yeah.
that's kind of their okay. I'm gonna
Okay.
say that's a different alias, so you're okay on that.
All right. And my abuser would act rude to my crush, being all like, "Are you sure you're not gay?" I mean, But the thing is, my crush explained to her that he wasn't gay, but but um Little would always like call him gay, saying that he was gay, despite that he kept confirming that he wasn't gay. But things went but I do remember experiencing this because I was watching as things happened. Little My abuser and my crush did get into a fight from what I remember. And I think she called him like butthurt or something. I don't know. I remember her insulting him after he left the group chat from what I remember.
So, if I'm not mistaken, she's really toxic, basically.
Yes.
Okay. Do you think that this behavior came from something in her personal life, or
I'm not too sure.
okay? Cause I've off. All right, so I'm gonna speak for a second, if you don't mind.
Yeah, yeah, I don't
I
mind.
uh, I personally spoke to the abuser we're speaking of, the first abuser,
Uh-huh.
and she wanted to remain anonymous and was really mad at me on Instagram. I could go right now and pull up messages, but I'm not gonna go bother doing that because that's invasion of privacy,
Hmm.
and I do respect her unknown alias, if you will.
Hmm.
Anyway, she said I remember this particularly. She
Hmm.
was talking about how you were gonna bring up drama between her and stuff like that. I'm just curious, do you know what she was talking about when she was talking about drama?
I'm not too sure, but that depends on what drama she was talking about. But
Well,
for the
she's
most,
sorry, keep going.
for the for the most part, I don't know what she was talking about, considering she didn't like give like a specific reason.
Yeah, she just said mostly we're just gonna talk about and blame it on drama, which I was just curious if you had a response to that.
Um, this this particularly isn't like you I'm pretty sure for the answers that I've given so far, I've never blamed it on drama. Like I'm like desperately trying to be bluntly honest and like giving the answers and and saying what I remember.
Yeah, that's totally understandable. So she also I want to take the talk again here, if you
Hmm.
do not mind.
Yeah,
She
I don't
also
mind.
personally she said she wanted to confront you about, let's say she wanted to confront you about how you were living in a fantasy bubble and such, and how apparently nothing was wrong, but here we are now and you're coming out about a pretty touchy sensitive topic, which by the way is very brave of you.
Yes.
And she was particularly talking about how she wouldn't come on an interview if I asked her, just in case there's false information.
Hmm.
So I think she's really dodging the subject,
Yeah.
and that could possibly raise suspicions that she did do it, right? Because
Yeah.
we're not saying that necessarily you're a liar, but there's no defining way to prove, because we're not gonna use screenshots and such
Yeah.
to define something that happened a few years ago. But it's still there. It's a
Exact.
it's a past memory, a scar. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, what I'm basically wanting to ask you is how do you cope with the mental scar, if you will?
Um I mostly most of my time I always spend listening to music, watching videos that that are like comforting and calming, or most of the time I just spend it drawing or drawing stuff to like let out my feelings or how I feel.
So you just continue with your normal hobbies?
Most of the time I do continue with my normal hobbies, sometimes I don't, but it depends on how I'm feeling.
Well, yeah, some days when you're down, obviously you don't want to do all your hobbies.
Yeah.
That's yeah, that's understandable.
But
Okay.
if I did have to be honest, most of the time I do like almost start crying whenever I remember all of these things that happened. Like it gets really close to the point where I do like almost like break down and start crying, but I never really allow myself to cry because I I want to be strong and just try my best to move on, but I can't because of the damage that's been caused.
Would you say you suffer from PTSD?
Yes, because this this was like a lot of emotional damage, especially when I know I keep saying this, but especially when I was a young child, this is like enough to like cause PTSD.
Yeah, okay. That's totally understandable. That's like what cuz the younger you are, right? Like the
Yeah.
sooner you develop that memory, you start to like what you start learning around that age between about like I'd say like 8 to 12
Mhm.
about ish, even younger, you
Yeah.
you hold on to memories that are more negative than really positive, right?
Yeah.
So you tend to notice like you struggle more because you didn't have like a clean slate, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah. So let's so my question is for now, what would you say like how would you describe for someone who's not sure if they're being like manipulated? Like how would you is there like a warning you can give out to people?
Um the only warning that I could give them is to be careful who you trust and be sure to look for the red flags or the signs that they give off that they could be abusive or toxic, and just be sure to be safe, because I personally don't want anyone to suffer what I had to go through and what the other abuse victims had to go through.
Okay. Um what would you particularly okay, no, let me rephrase that. I have a bunch of Google Doc questions, but I can't access them right now. So it's really embarrassing trying to come up with questions on the spot for you. So when it comes to your first and second abuser, correct?
Uh-huh.
If I'm not mistaken, they were they were in a relationship a long time ago, correct?
Yes.
How do you think that relationship was formed?
I'm not so sure. I do remember them like talking like a lot, and I remember the second abuser stating that he had like a crush on my first abuser, but I do remember this honestly. Um, behind behind closed doors, the second abuser continued to sexually abuse me. And then and then I do remember telling the first abuser, but I don't they did they and they did break up with the second abuser, but in my honest opinion, I do believe that behind closed doors, the two abusers blamed me for it, despite I was only being honest about what was happening.
So you're saying that your that their relationship happened because of you? Sorry, I don't get your answer there.
I mean, they were in a group chat with me, but I don't know if it was necessarily me who got them to talk. I'm not very sure. I don't know. I remember all of this happening after the whole cyberbullying incident, and I think after when I got out of the hospital. I don't know. I remember those two like talking a lot after I left.
Okay. So, another question. I keep saying okay after every question. Hey, fans, take a shot every time I say okay after an answer or an answer. Oh, sorry, just a force of habit, I guess. Okay, particularly with your first abuser again,
Mhm.
since we don't really know much about the second one outside of they were very manipulative, right?
Yes.
We know a lot about the first abuser though. So so the first abuser currently so the first abuser is currently complaining about how you particularly were specifically making like false accusations on her in your toxic friend video, and specifically one of them was saying like how most of the drama caused was not from her but from yourself. Can you explain what she meant by that?
Um, I don't know what she means by most of the drama being started by me because I do remember behind closed doors me and her would argue a lot, but I was never the one who started them because again, I was I was young and immature, but like I've stated before in the previous video, I honestly believe that she that since I was like the youngest out of the group, I honestly believe that she wanted to bring me down or something like that just just to like get me in trouble because well, you know how people are when it comes to to those who are younger than them.
Yeah, yeah. You want to seem like the better and older, responsible one, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
but you only make the youngest person you only put the younger person in a bad place and then the youngest person ends up getting all of the hate, which ends up putting them in like a bad mental state, which ended up happening to me. I ended up being put in a bad mental state and still am to this very day.
Can you particularly describe what do you mean by this bad state?
What I mean by bad state of mind, I mean like always like feeling like depressed and not to go into like a very personal or dark place, but most of the time my thoughts tend to go straight into thinking about suicide like my thoughts once did when I was 9. Like I always had like suicidal thoughts, but for me currently at times I do tend to have suicidal thoughts, but they're not as bad as they once were.
Okay. So, if I'm not mistaken, in your past life, you had a lot of romantic relationships, correct?
Yes, but it's most but most of those relationships didn't last long. It's either mostly because either the romantic partner was either distant, didn't really talk to me as much, and other reasons that I can't really go into because I don't want anyone thinking that I'm blaming them when I'm not.
What do you mean by that?
What I meant was with like cheating and being abusive, but I'm struggling to put all of these
So you're
sentences. I'm
saying
sorry.
that a majority of your exes were either distant or cheaters?
Yeah, not like the some of them were like pretty distant, and because of being distant, me and the romantic partner did end up breaking up. But some of them, but to go on to a more positive side, the ones that I've had like up until now, most of them were pretty nice, but most of the time they were distant.
Okay.
If you
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my question is my question is so you were in like a lot of relationships, like a lot, correct? Like I said.
Yeah, which
So
in my
is there
eyes, looking back at that, I genuinely don't agree with being in a constant relationships. Like I should have like taken a break from being in a relationship, but
where
if I had to be
where
honest, I
did that
guess
sorry to interrupt, but where did that behavior originate from?
I'm not very sure, but I guess it's because I just wanted to feel loved for once, or just wanted to feel like someone out there like really loved me and cared about me, since basically in real life and here on the internet I was never really shown that type of love and care before.
So let me get this straight. So you're saying that none of your past romantic relationships worked out because you weren't necessarily you weren't necessarily thinking of what they were looking for, but rather you were you were looking for one who how do I put it? Like put diverted all their attention towards you,
Wait, what's diverted?
like put all their attention into you.
Oh. Well, I wouldn't say like necessarily like diverted, but like I do understand like people do have other stuff they need to do, but I guess if I wanted like a relationship to work out, I guess both I want to say both parties, but at the same time I don't believe that would be the correct word. But I guess both people do have to like try to find a way to get the relationship to work, if you get what I'm trying to say.
Would you say that was an issue between you and your past partners?
Um, I wouldn't say most of the time it was an issue, because most of the time my past partners did make an effort, but sometimes things didn't really work out, if I had to be honest.
So you're saying you didn't try.
No, I did try, but I'm trying to remember how things went.
So I don't understand what you're saying. What are you particularly blaming your past relationships that failed on necessarily?
Um, I'm trying to remember.
Well,
The reason why I'm
it can't be that hard to remember. You just gave me two answers, but you're not sticking to one.
I know, because I don't know. I don't remember these relationships that all that much, considering how long ago they've been. Well, I do remember one relationship did work out, considering how long it lasted, but it was only with like a person who I'm not going to state, but ugh,
Was this character a male or female?
female from what I remember.
What do you mean by that? Are they transgender?
No, they weren't transgender from what I remember.
So why do you say from when I remember that they were female?
I want because I guess you can say I was hinting like at erratic, but I didn't want to like state her name because
So you were in a relationship with Erratic, correct?
yes, but I can't
And
remember.
you and sorry, would you say that was your most successful relationship?
Yes, from what I remember.
But
Things,
sorry, keep going.
but I do remember there was a time where me and her like broke up considering because something happened, then me and her were like I think like either like a week or a month later, me and her would get back together, but there would always be like someone who would break us up.
So you're saying Erratic didn't like you that way because she would go to other people, or were you saying that you would go to other people?
No, me and her both liked each other, but um there was like this specific person. They if I had to be honest, this person was like a lot younger than us, somewhere around like the age of like uh I guess around the age of like a very young kid. And for some reason this young kid liked me despite I was like one of the older kids
But you hung out and liked older people, correct?
as friends from I didn't have like a lot of friends from what I remember. Most of them weren't as active.
But a majority of your relationships are with older individuals.
Yeah.
So you hung out with older people.
And if I did have to be honest, I do find a fault in that. I I honestly believe that me at the time hanging out with older individuals wasn't correct. Like I should have hung out with like I should have also hung out with people that were younger than me or just somewhere around my age group. Cause considering how some older individuals can be.
Yeah, okay. So so what you're saying is so what you're saying is you didn't like younger people because what reason was that again?
Uh, I I think it was because I think it was because I didn't really get along with anyone that was younger than me.
Oh, okay. So so you were in a relationship with Erratic, correct?
Yes.
And your relationship was your longest lasting relationship and what you consider your most successful one, correct?
Yes.
So then and you're saying that other people caused you two to break up, right?
I No, it was only like one specific individual, which was like I want to say that he was 5 because like I remember someone saying that he was like 5 or something like that. But at the
So
same
so
uh,
my question is if so why are you particularly what were they doing to break up your relationship? Like I don't get it.
um he would always act like all like lovey around me, like as if he had like a crush on me, but I only saw him as like a friend. because he was so young, and since I was like older, I didn't want anyone like getting mad at me. But at the same time, I was 9, he was 5, and there was like a huge age gap between us. And well, yeah, and he would hold up.
But weren't you in a relationship with your first abuser? Correct.
No, I only into one with the first abuser after me and Erratic like split up for like it was either like the third time or the second time. I don't remember.
So if you have such concern with the age gap, then why were you so compliant or agreeing with your first abuser that you guys should date when your other abuser was far older than you?
I am not so sure. But uh, but I do remember one thing that I didn't really find to be correct with Erratic and the first abuser.
What? What?
Wait, did I lag out?
Yeah, you said no. You said there's something like the thing I didn't see correct between erratic and
Oh,
your first abuser, and then you stopped talking.
oh, I was waiting for you to answer.
Well, what's not correct?
So you know how I stated there was a 5-year-old that would always talk to me, right?
Yep.
I was in a group chat with the first abuser, Erratic, and this 5-year-old. And for some reason, the first abuser kept forcing Erratic to date this 5-year-old, despite Erratic was 12 and this 5-year-old was, well, 5. And Aaliyah, oh shoot, Erratic was obviously showing signs that she didn't feel comfortable, and she was also showing signs that she was getting mad.
Why was she upset at you?
No, she wasn't as upset at me. She was mostly upset at the first abuser for trying to force her to date the 5-year-old.
So you're saying the first abuser was convincing erratic to date a 5-year-old?
Yes, that's what I remember.
Um. Okay. So so how would you? What was your response to that?
Um, I didn't necessarily uh, I think I tried to tell um I think I
You
tried
think
to
or you,
tell.
sorry to interrupt, but you think or you did?
I'm trying to remember everything, sorry. Um I think I might have told the first abuser to stop, but she didn't listen.
So let me get this straight. So you were dating erratic,
Yes.
and the first abuser who was this I believe best friends with erratic, correct?
Yes, they were best friends from what I
So
remember.
the abuser, told erratic to break up with you to date a 5-year-old.
No, me and Erratic were already broken up at the time when the first abuser tried to convince Aaliyah to date Erratic to date a 5-year-old. I keep on saying her real name.
So if we were to okay, so what other so you guys broke up because you and Aaliyah broke up because
Wait, because what?
like why did you guys break up?
Um, because I don't want to place blame on the 5-year-old, but it was mostly because. But I do remember um him also acting all lovey around Aaliyah as well.
So I don't understand. Did Aaliyah leave you for the 5-year-old?
She she rejected him from what I remember because she did show screenshots of what happened between her and the 5-year-old.
Yeah. Hold on.
But it
I don't mean to be interrupting here again, but I personally need to go to the bathroom, so I will personally be right back. Do you have anything to
okay.
say to the people who happen to get this far? Go ahead. You can just sing a song. Relax. Please don't say anything offensive while I'm gone. BRB.
All right. Well then, uh, there's not much that I have to say, but if I did have to be honest with like everyone who's watching this, um, don't get yourself into like the same situation and like I once did and if anyone, and I mean if anyone is showing signs of them being abusive, toxic, or anything along those lines, don't be around them because there might be an outcome that could affect your life, especially in like a negative way. Sure, in to other people it might make you stronger as a person, but you'll still have those scars that remain. And most of the time it can be very traumatic. So, and I don't want anyone having to go through what I specifically had to go through and what the other abuse victims had to go through. So, for what I want with everyone watching this, stay safe and if anyone, oh, hello.
Hello, I'm back. Sorry. How this is working is every time you speak, I mute my end on my recording system. So you can still hear me talk on the call, but the people on the
Oh,
OBS wouldn't hear. But I mute my OBS and I just let you speak. Sorry, I'm also
okay.
back from my bathroom.
It's okay. Also, um, I was about to ask if we could cut some parts out because I stuttered way too much.
Like just a second ago when I left.
No, like before you left.
Oh, um, like what parts particularly do you want to cut out?
When I started to explain some stuff.
Well, I don't really feel like it's fine. Like it's not gonna affect like the interview. No, it's cool.
Okay.
It's all right. It's like it'll give people perspective that you can't just answer right on spot. Like this
Yeah.
isn't scripted or anything. I did have questions scripted on a Google Doc, but from my end because I struggle to the free think sometimes.
Yeah.
But I'm having trouble accessing that doc because the way I set up this recording. So
Oh.
so anyway, you were talking about Leo breaking up with you for a 5-year-old, right?
I guess.
Or what was going on at the time? You and Leah broke up because you didn't give me a defining answer.
Uh, Now, now one thing I need to say, when me and Nalia broke up, I did try. I mean, like I did talk to her, but uh, I am not giving a really good answer now, am I?
It's fine. Just explain yourself, please.
Well, me and Leo, after our breakup, we would barely talk. Like we didn't talk as much as we once did when me and her like first met.
Would you say this
And
was? Oh, sorry. Keep going.
oh no, I forgot what I was gonna say. You continue.
So, would you say this was your first abuser's fault that you two broke up?
I guess so.
Why would you say that?
Um, I because I do remember. Um, I do remember the first abuser not really agreeing with most of the things that happened between me and Aaliyah. Like, for example, so you know how like I told you about the picture that Leah drew of me and her?
Yeah, you've told me about this in the past.
Um,
Oh crap! I can't mute my OBS. All right. Well, it looks like you guys are gonna hear partial static for a second.
and and how the first abuser got mad at Aaliyah for drawing that.
Uh huh.
I think that's when the first abuser drew the line, and I do remember um and I do remember this like right off the bat. I do remember the first abuser trying to convince me that Aaliyah had been cheating on me or something like that when me and Aaliyah were in a relationship.
Yeah. Okay. So my question is, I suppose, is can we talk about your first abuser, like,
Right?
if you don't mind? What was So what was particularly so abusive in that relationship? Like, what was the main abuse? Would you say?
The main abuse. Well, for the sexual abuse, I wouldn't. I want to say that it wasn't necessarily the main because, well, as you've seen in the screenshots that I've provided to you in the past, you've seen how she acted, but there were times where she would act a certain way around me.
What was that act you would say?
She would randomly make herself hump me whenever she would whenever me and her would talk. Again,
Like she would.
the,
Oh, sorry. Continue.
again, again, the first abuser was 13 and I was 9 when this happened. If I had to state that again.
So she would. If I'm not mistaken, you guys role played a lot, right?
Yeah, sometimes we would roleplay, sometimes we would just call or something like that.
Yeah. So would you say that? Would you say that she would? Would you say that that's where a lot of the majority of sexual abuse came from? She would try to role play. She would try to do like ERP with you, like erotic role
Yeah,
play.
yeah.
Okay. And you just accepted it, right? You didn't like question it at the time because you guys were great friends, right?
Well, I would act like I wouldn't question it, but I guess you could say like on the inside I was questioning it because like I I didn't understand why she was doing ERP, which she knew that I was still a young child.
This is off topic, I suppose, but did you have any sexual encounters with Aaliyah, erotic roleplay, or just flat out in a call?
No, Aaliyah never did any ERP with me. She mostly kept things PG, like child friendly and all of that.
I don't want to pull up the screenshot for this, but you said particularly, if I'm not mistaken, that that in the screenshot between you and your first abuser, that she said that you claimed to have effed erratic,
I
and you said that, and she said that it's not fair because you won't f her. Can you explain that then?
I never had any sexual um interactions with Aaliyah from what I remember. I think the reason why um uh the first abuser is saying stuff like this is because I drew like a um roleplay child or a ship child for me and Aaliyah, and I think um that's what made the first abuser act like this.
But in the screenshot that you've sent me, and I still have, by the way,
Hmm.
you didn't deny having that encounter or interaction with Aaliyah.
I think it was because I felt like I couldn't like deny it or something.
Why didn't you deny your sexual encounter with Aaliyah if it never happened?
Because me knowing the first abuser, she, sh I think it's because she always like knows how to find a way to get people to like agree with her.
But you said yourself it just never happened, but you're not denying it in screenshots, so which one is it?
Well, from my personal experience with Aaliyah, none of this never happened, but if it did ever happen, then I probably just don't really remember it clearly because considering how long ago it was.
So you did have an encounter with Aaliyah, correct?
If I did have to give insight on what happened, the only thing Aaliyah would do was just make her character like my character, but it was nowhere it was never anywhere near inappropriate, despite the picture that she once drew.
So, with your first abuser, again, you you said she used a lot of fear tactics against you, correct?
Yeah, especially if especially with killers and all of that.
And you were and she did you tell her that you were afraid of these things or no?
I always told her to stop because me knowing myself on a personal level, um death and murder and killers do scare me because me myself, I don't want to die because I'm not ready for death, nor will I ever be.
So,
But
oh, sorry,
but the
keep
fir-
going.
but the but the first abuser did continue to use these fear tactics.
And they always work, correct?
Yeah, there was also one time where she did use Lucifer or Satan as a scare tactic.
Did you ever have a sexual encounter with your first abuser outside of erotic roleplay?
Uh, no, but I do remember one specific thing. Um, the first abuser told me that she was gonna draw my second abuser, effing me. And she
Oh,
said that bluntly in a call.
okay. So with your first abuser, and you saying that you never had a sexual encounter with her. So if it was not sexual abuse, what would she particularly make you do with fear tactics?
Um, I don't remember what she would use the fear tactics for. I think it was most, but there's one fear tactic that was used, but it was only like in a call with her and the second abuser.
What would they make you do?
They were trying to get me to get naked in front of them, but they kept using like demons as like a fear tactic. But there was one time where, but it got to the point where I just like had enough and just left the call. Like I couldn't handle being around them.
And both abusers were in this call, correct?
Yes, both abusers.
Would you say from your perspective, would you say that you would you say that now more than ever you are much more, let's say, reluctant to trust someone? Like I know I've asked, are you distant? But do you still like, do you even at the people do you trust? Do you still question their answers and such?
Yeah, and most of the time, yeah, and most of the time I do question a lot of things about them, and I do question my trust for them as well.
Okay. I think I'm gonna wrap up this interview. We can continue calling if you want. We can play a
Yeah.
game or something. It's really
All right.
up to you. I really personally don't mind. But I'm gonna wrap up the interview. Thank you all for watching. This was the story with someone with previous abuse and us just discussing it.
Yes.
I feel like there's a few important questions I missed out on because, you know, forgot my Google Doc. But thank you all so much for watching. It's been great, y'all.
Yeah.
See ya. Do you have anything else you would like? Wait, is there anything else you would like to say to any viewer or anyone who watches the video?
Um, to what I have to say to the viewers is, well, something that I've pretty much previously said. Um, I want the person who's watching this video to stay safe and just be careful who they trust, because they'll never know who's behind the screen and they'll never know what they're like until things go too far.
It's yeah, I definitely agreed.
Yeah.
And even though it's unlikely
Yeah.
without swearing or such. Let's say let's say the abuser watches this video. Would you like to personally leave a message for them?
All right.
You
And
don't have to, but if there is one without like
right.
swearing or being offensive, do you have one?
Well, if any of my abusers are watching this, um, I hope that someday you'll realize what you're doing is wrong, and that you'll find the heart to change, like actually change, and never do this sort of stuff again, because you could actually give someone PTSD or trauma. And I just hope that someday you'll change and realize what you've done is wrong, and it will always be wrong.
Well, that's gonna be it
And
for everyone. Really,
yeah.
really sorry that this line of events happened.
Yeah.
And it's really unfortunate. If you guys would have any questions for Erica here, you can leave them in the comments,
Yeah.
and I'm sure Erica will answer them eventually,
Yeah.
or never. Who knows?
Who knows?
Anyway, it's been great. Thank you for coming on and talking about this.
You're welcome.
And I'll see you guys in the next live stream or video that we do. Bye
Yep.
bye.
Bye.